Find your voice. It's quite the anomaly. The world used to be much simpler. What used to be a busy freeway bustling with cars and trucks of all shapes and sizes is now quiet as a mouse with the electric hum of hovering cars that rarely have, if any, distinctions. What once was a smell of fresh pastries and treats from the bakery down the street is gone now in favor of the sound of whizzes and whirs coming from the loud, clanking robots that use it as a charging station. I really liked that bakery. I don't think I ever realized how much I did until it was gone. I'm an explorer. Sometimes I'll wander for hours in forests and large necks of the woods. The smell of fresh pine is quite the shock to the system when all you know is the smells of an industrial factory. Every so often I'll find a familiar place that is now made obsolete, but usually the next day it's gone. One day I went out again, and I stumbled upon something I never thought I'd find. A bookstore. However, over time the roots had gotten into it and destroyed its precious architecture, almost as if it was being gutted from the inside out. But I saw something else in there. It was a robot. Seemingly, I had forgotten that robots were being sent out to get rid of obsolete buildings such as this one. This robot was bigger than most I had seen prior to this, almost twice the size of a regular one. I watched as its powerful mechanical arms were tearing out drywall. Its claws were chopping away at shelves where books once stood. I ran up to it and stopped it. "Don't!" I said in protest. The robot looked down on me. Its glowing eyes illuminated my face. It buzzed and whirred, almost like it was trying to speak. It raised its hand again as if nothing had happened and swung downward. I got out of the way quickly. I wasn't about to lose my hand today. With a splitting crunch, the bookshelf it targeted was cut clean in half. I was disappointed. Seeing an artifact as old as a bookshelf being sliced down like it was a mere tree was haunting. But the robot didn't seem to care. I looked up at it again, and it looked back at me. I was fuming, and without thinking, I yelled at it. "How could you do that? That's a relic of the past and you just chop away at it like it's nobody's business? Ugh!" The robot stared at me. I looked at it again. "Oh, right. You don't have any sort of cognitive thought whatsoever. It's just turning gears and wires inside that supposed brain of yours." The robot looked down, almost as if it were ashamed. I noticed the robot was trying to speak, but something was holding it back, like a restraining bolt of some kind. Are you trying to say something?" I asked.
Sorry.
I was aghast. The words seemed to struggle to leave the robot's mouth. It turned its head back to me.
Teach me.
It said, the words again struggling to get out. "Teach you," I said. "Teach you what?" The robot swiveled around and gestured to the decrepit bookstore. "Oh, right. Well, what do you want to know?"
Anything.
The robot said, with an almost comprehensible tone. "Well, this place used to be magical," I began. Books would line those shelves for what seemed like miles, filled to the brim with knowledge, stories, and everything in between. The amount of creativity present in this one bookstore would make your head spin, I said, remembering when I would come here and get lost in the whirlwind of any book that caught my attention.
But, what happened?
The robot asked, seemingly genuinely curious. "Well," I said, trying not to sound malicious, "you did." The robot was confused.
But I didn't do anything.
It was true. The robots here only know what has been programmed into them. Their worldview was vastly different from ours. Well, people lost the need for books. When technology like you came around, books became obsolete and, well, here we are, I said, looking around at the dilapidated staircases and shelves that lay in shambles.
Sorry.
The robot said again, but this time with a complete, comprehensible voice. I gave a little smirk as the robot swiveled and looked around.
It must have been wonderful,
it said, its metal, mechanical head swerving around the store. For what seemed like hours, I continued ranting and gushing about the wonders of not just bookstores, but theaters and the sounds of the freeway rumbling over your head as people make their way to work each morning. The robot was enamored with this.
Why did things have to change?
It asked. I stopped and pondered. I ask myself that question every day, I said back. I miss the way the world used to be.
What can we do?
The robot asked, almost as if it were both asking and answering my question at the same time. If only I knew, I said. After a little more talking of the way things used to be, I went back home, back into the streets that make no sound, and the bakery that has no pastries. I never did see that robot again. Maybe he finally spoke up for himself.